I have a story to tell you, but before that, before I get lost in the storytelling, I would like to say that this story will qualify among the many other signs that are not written in this book. The gospel tells us there were many signs about the risen Lord and the work of the risen Lord in the life of the people themselves. But John, the gospel writer, tells us there were many other signs. These are not written. Only these are written so that we may believe. What are written here? I'd like to underline that there are two elements in what is written, what we have read today, that we feared so much during these COVID times. Maybe you can already guess it. The first one is the touching. That's why we have social distancing. Do not touch. That is the rule of COVID. If you touch, you will have COVID also. That is why we were so afraid. Thanks be to God, it has been controlled. Nobody has declared that it's over. But touching the body even, is disallowed. That was one great fear. And the other is closely related to it that we find in the writing today. And that is breathing. Breathing. Imagine Jesus appearing and breathing on you. That is why we have this. Right? So we were so afraid of touching and breathing. Otherwise, we will die suffocating. That is our greatest fear. Now, what is not written here is my story. Just a few days after Easter Sunday, so Tuesday specifically, I was in a defense, an academic defense at the Faculty of Sacred Theology in our university. One of our deacons defended his thesis. And they were face-to-face already, but since I am in Surabaya, I was in a wide screen. Later on, they had picture taking. I saw it was pasted on Facebook. I saw it's like a funeral of myself. Imagine like that. The pictures, the TV is very large with myself there. No flowers. And they were all there standing face-to-face after the defense. So when it was posted on Facebook, it appeared like somebody there, I was there, and they were all there. Like sorry for that. It's like a funeral. The deacon defended work in liturgy. He was my student. And it was made very excellently that after the defense, when we counted his grade, it was summa cum laude. Immediately, the audience reacted. I can hear it from Zoom. They said, it's resurrection. It's resurrection. There was a context to that. When this deacon was writing his thesis in 2021, it was supposed to be over in 2021. But his mother got COVID. So he went home. He was allowed to be home to accompany the family, and no one was allowed at the COVID ward. But since it was already 2021, he was already vaccinated. He was allowed with all the gadgets there. He was assisting his mother. And he was in the public hospital with many other patients dying of COVID. They were fortunate to have oxygen tanks by the bedside of his mother. But as many others did not have oxygen, he found himself rotating the oxygen tanks to the other patients who needed it, even if many of them would die. So imagine yourself trying to help, but your mother also needs help. And the oxygen tanks, they were, saving For the mom, they have to give away because the other people were gasping for air. So the deacon exercised his diaconate of service by rotating the oxygen tanks. Eventually, his mother also died. And eventually, the deacon also got COVID. That is the story. That is why he could not write his thesis. That is why, he could not concentrate on academics. That is why he was delayed. Last Tuesday, he finally was able to make it. Not only wrote it, but defended it well. So when he got the highest honors of a summa cum laude, everybody was saying, it is the resurrection. Brothers and sisters, stories like this are the kind of stuff that John, the gospel writer, is telling us. There are many other signs. There are many other signs, but they are not written anymore in this book. Later on, another writer would say, if we write all of that into the Bible, the entire world will not contain everything that will be written. That is what is written in the scriptures. If we write all these stories, I know you have your own stories. Imagine if we write all these stories, even in the Diocese of Surabaya itself, all these stories that allow us to say, it is the Lord. All these stories that allow us to say, it is the resurrection. The whole Surabaya cannot contain the books that will be written about it. But this story has been written. We have read this today so that we may believe. Come to think of it, when I asked the deacon, our brother deacon, what sustained you in this most difficult time? The answer is very simple. Prayer, Father. Prayer. We read in the first reading from the Acts of the Apostles, they devoted themselves to the teaching of the apostles and to the communal life, to the breaking of the bread, and to the prayers. That is the very first statement we have read in the first reading today. It is very ordinary. And yet, that is the secret of the Christian community. That is also the secret of our brother deacon, who underwent a very big crisis in his own life during COVID time. What sustained him throughout this most difficult time? Prayer. And that is why in the same first reading we are told, awe came on everyone. When they saw the church like this, when we hear of stories like this, we say the Lord is risen. Truly, it is the Lord. For some, you might need proofs. Show me his hands, show me his side. But for those who believe, it is the resurrection. No one else can make it except by the power of God, by the power of Christ. My brothers and sisters, we come together once again in the Eucharist on this second Sunday of Easter, celebrating the resurrection. May we, in our lives, also experience the same stories, not perhaps of the disciples written here that we have read, but maybe of that deacon, or your neighbor, your friends, who have undergone the same stories of faith and have concluded, it is by the hand of God that this happened. It is the Lord. He is risen.